So, a woman came to speak with me recently. On paper, her life looked really successful. She was highly educated, intelligent, and she moved in circles where wealth was already present. Her family was comfortable financially, her partner was successful, and she had opportunities, networks, and resources that many people spend years trying to reach. But during our conversation, she said something very interesting. She said, I feel surrounded by wealth, but it's not coming through me. Now, she was not struggling financially, but she knew she was capable of more. She didn't want to make wealth through effort and stress and even step out into an identity that wasn't truly her, but she did want wealth to come through her ideas, her leadership, and her vision. And what she realized was nothing external was, obviously stopping her. That's why she came to me. She said, Ashwarya, I just want to know, I have big dreams and I've got ideas and I want to know why wealth doesn't come through me. And I realized that the obstacles to wealth for some women are much more quieter. They're not loud, they're not obvious. And these patterns are about power, about belonging, identity, visibility. And once she truly actually saw those patterns clearly, everything started shifting. New ideas emerged, new opportunities appeared, and more importantly, she began relating to wealth in a completely different way. And that is the conversation that we're going to have today. These are the kind of conversations that I have with very advanced, emotionally intelligent women who have been able to create really amazing lives for themselves and they're ready to go the next step. So, these women are not starting from nothing. They are intelligent, well connected, resourced, but something inside of them knows that they're meant to create something of their own. And today, that is what we're going to explore. We're going to be exploring the hidden patterns that sometimes prevent that from happening. And this is for women who have business ideas, they know that they're meant to be entrepreneurs. They know they're supposed to give back to the world in a really meaningful way, whether it be through a creative, healing, or just entrepreneurial modality, spirit. And also, it's for women who are already in 9 to 5s, who are already employed, but they just want to get to a leadership position. They want to open up more. And sometimes it's for women that are in families. And, it's interesting because women say that sometimes wealth doesn't come through them, but they are absolutely responsible in unseen ways for so many things that come to their family. So, welcome to this masterclass. What we're going to explore today is something most conversations about wealth completely overlook, right? So, most people talk about wealth in terms of strategy, like business, investment, marketing, and those things matter, but they are rarely the true obstacle for the women that work with me. And in my experience, working with these intelligent, well-resourced women who want to expand their wealth significantly, like I said, the real obstacles are far more subtle, deep-rooted, and it feels like just something weighing you down. They are psychological patterns about power, prosperity, identity, and belonging that quietly shape how wealth moves through your life. Now, these patterns are particularly common in women who are already capable of building significant wealth. Like I said, women who are educated, successful inside professional systems, and who already have access to resources and opportunity. And they know that they're supposed to not just receive wealth or manage wealth, they're supposed to actually generate it through their ideas, leadership, and influence. So before we go any further, I want you to consider one question. You don't need to answer this out loud. I just want you to notice what comes up. If wealth were to come through you, through your ideas, leadership, and work, what part of your life would change? And perhaps more importantly, what part of you would need to evolve to hold it? Because multiplying wealth is not only a financial shift, it's an identity shift. So let's talk about the history. For centuries, women were taught that wealth should come to them indirectly through their fathers, husbands, family structures, institutions. But history actually tells a far more interesting story. Women were actually really powerful. They did run trading networks across continents. They did manage estates and business. They did finance property and infrastructure. And women have actually always generated and managed wealth. But this is not always pushed as the common narrative. And alongside this history, something also quiet has developed, a cultural memory that independence should cost a woman something important, love, safety, or belonging. And even today, that memory still shapes how women relate to wealth, even when they are fully capable as beings, as humans, capable of generating it. So, what are the three wealth identities that women inherit, right? So, before we explore the five hidden wealth blocks, it's really important to and helpful to understand something really fundamental. Most women unconsciously inherit one of these three wealth identities, and these identities shape how wealth enters their life. So the first one is the inheritor. The inheritor is somebody that grows up around wealth, opportunity, or financial stability. So she understands wealth culturally. She might come from a financially comfortable family. She might have married into wealth. She might simply move in circles where opportunities are already present. But she might have this internal tension because wealth around her has not fully come through her authorship, right? Through her ideas. And her challenge is not actually access to wealth. Her challenge is having authority over wealth, trusting in her leadership and her perspectives and her ideas that she can generate wealth. So the inheritor is really after her own authority rather than just access because she already has access. Now, the next archetype is the achiever, right? The next wealth identity. Now, the achiever proves herself through intelligence and effort. So she thrives inside structured environments. So she has just done what she had to do to get into the corporate ladder, the professional fields, the institutions. So she performs really exceptionally well within those systems. But creating wealth through something of her own, like a entrepreneur like entrepreneurship or a business idea, that feels less clear. So she's really good at generating wealth through systems, but when it comes to stepping into independence and again, self-authority, that's where the challenge is. And her challenge is becoming the source of wealth rather than the performer inside someone else's system. The third one is the creator. Now, the creator feels a deep instinct to build something meaningful. So, a company, a body of work, a platform, an influence, an art form. She knows that wealth is can come through her vision, but stepping into that role requires certain skills like visibility, authority, influence, ownership. And her challenge is not talent because she has a lot of talent. She has a lot of vision. She knows exactly when it comes to the creation, she knows everything, right? She is well versed in that. Her challenge is claiming that she's capable of building something in front of, like, it's to get it out there. Okay. So it's moving from creating to actually becoming visible and creating a structure through which her art form, her creation can flourish. So just to recap, and then you don't have to be one of these identities. You can be a merging of these identities. So the inheritor who already has wealth, but her challenge is not access, it's to have authority over the wealth that already exists around her. The achiever, who's very good at being in systems and creating wealth, but her challenge is to generate wealth from herself and step out into independence with wealth and her ideas. And the creator who's very much visionary and knows how to put things together and create systems and all of that kind of stuff, her challenge is to now just step out and build a system where she is now wealth is now flowing through her. And I would say the creator exists in all of us, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be we've inherited wealth. I think we're one of the two. So if we have wealth, we've either inherited it or we've had to do something we don't necessarily want to get it, right? But the creator is where the two identities merge, because it's about having that body of work, that art form, that idea, and bringing it to fruition. So, what are the five secret wealth blocks? Now, these blocks are not something that I've just, picked up from someone else's ideas. This is something I've deeply formulated by working with women who have these three identities and also women beyond those three identities as well. There's also women that don't come from wealth. They may necessarily not be in a institution that pays them well, and they might not even have an idea, but they have a belief, they know in their hearts that they're meant for more. So this also applies to you. Now, the first wealth block is that fear, the fear that independence will cost belonging. Now, we know that in our history, there have been women that have not been able to generate wealth by themselves, but we also know that there have been women that have been able to generate wealth by themselves, okay? So it's really about the narrative that you're tuned into, and it really does come from your family system, your culture, all of this, your society, everything that you're around. But there is a really deep belief for centuries that a woman's financial independence could threaten her social safety. Now, this is a very real fear, okay? Because this is about this is about literally losing your life. And we can call it the witch wound, but it's more than that, because the witch wound is more about being a healer and doing something against the grain, or that was deemed against the grain. This is just about having financial independence. And I've spoken to so many women that carry this subtle belief that when we really get into it about their businesses and why it's not working, or, why they're not generating, why they've hit a ceiling and yet they're not going further than that, is that they carry a subtle belief that if they generate wealth themselves, or if they break through a certain ceiling, that something important is going to shift, that relationships, perception, belonging, something is going to shift dramatically. Now, in the history, if a woman did not have independent wealth, this shift was a real cost to her, because if she was ostracized from society, if her husband left her, if her family said, bye, that was a real threat to her survival. So you may carry this within you. So you may carry this belief that if you are truly independent with wealth, you are going to lose something. You're going to be exposed. You're going to lose your social safety. And that moment, a woman trusts that prosperity will not cost her her belonging. Her wealth capacity expands dramatically. I've seen this happen. This is a block that I've worked with time and time again. And it always leads to some kind of programming that we've seen through our family system, or a repetition of history, or something in our lineage, culture, society that has deeply programmed us with that belief. Wealth block two, right? So the second one is there is a hidden trade-off between success and love. Many women grew up observing a really quiet cultural story that a woman could pursue ambition, or she could prioritize intimacy and family, rarely both. Now, this is a different kind of programming that says if you want to go off on your own and do something that we don't agree with the family don't agree with, or it's not really socially seen as, um, you know, like a high caliber thing to do, or something that, the family do, then you're not going to be able to have a family and get married. So you have to choose. And actually, a lot of the art forms had this kind of trade-off. If you wanted to be an artist, because for a long time, if you were a singer, a dancer, or an artist, you are deemed either like an outcast or whatever, right? So if you really followed your dreams, it was like, okay, you have to choose between being this thing or getting married. And women still carry this today. You don't know. I've even spoken to women who have made zero in their whole lives, or women who have made multi-millions in their life and they've just hit a wealth block, right? Because sometimes that ceiling still keeps you as not outshining anyone or not being truly independent. So sometimes you make a certain level of wealth that you can kind of stay under the radar, and it depends on your society or who you're around, whether that's £10,000 or 10 billion or whatever, right? So when women carry this, they really do create this barrier. And when women reject this idea intellectually, which because it's very intellectual, it's very in the mental space and it's quietly embedded, it's also in the body. It's also when you're in relation to a partner and your partner's success and how your partner views success. All of these things trigger this block. Because somewhere inside you, you think that if you were truly to go on your path, then you would not be able to have a family and get married. Or if you just even have a partner or have children. And it's a very deep belief in your heart space as well. I've definitely had this. I've definitely had, if I was to, and I've worked through it, right? So a lot of people have this one. The third wealth block is that relationships quietly contain expansion. So now this is when women unconsciously attract partners who actually feel unsettled in their ambition, and success becomes something that must be softened, explained, managed, hidden, or their partners don't even truly know how successful they are. And this creates another ceiling because over time the nervous system just it gets tired of managing this, so it creates a ceiling. Because you might attract partners who are not doing so well in their life and they rely on you and you don't want to be the sole breadwinner, so you might hide or explain or manage. Or you might attract partners that their position is quite insecure, and they feel threatened by you. Or you might attract people, and it might not be partners, it might be even family, social circle, friends, and your nervous system is always having to manage the relational risk and the relational tension. So you are not able to just freely expand into your purpose, your worth, your true potential. And until a woman is truly surrounded by people who feel comfortable standing beside her growth, expansion is always a cautious thing that is to be managed. So I really want you to ask yourself, because before we go to 4 and 5, I really want to just, ground it with some questions. So for this one, I want you to ask yourself, are you around people that if you became the most successful part of you, how would your partner truly feel? How would your family truly feel? How would your friends that you have currently truly feel? Because this question is going to really tell you if you're stopping your success. And even the other one, where there's a hidden trade-off between success and love, if you were to follow your wildest imagination and go to the top, do you see yourself as being able to do that and have a family and children if that's what you desire, or and have a partner? So truly pause this and ask yourself, because that's where you're going to feel the edge. And I want you to really notice where in your body these feelings come up. Is it a tightening of the heart? Is it a nausea? And going back to the first point, if you were to truly be financially independent, what is it that you're going to lose in your current identity? And what does that loss mean to you? For example, if you lose friendships, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to be alone for the rest of your life? What does it mean? Pause this and do it. So now let's go on to number 4. Number 4 is when it's kind of the opposite, right? It's kind of when women understand or they have learned that their value comes from being capable, reliable, responsible. They are the ones in their family system that solves everything. And because this has been done earlier than it should have been done, maybe you had a parent that you needed to take care of, maybe you had a lot of siblings you need to take care of. So you grew up beyond your time. And before your time. You grew up too fast. And what this does is when you grow up too fast, you don't have a natural space to really find your talents and have this kind of natural interaction with the world where you realize that you can do what you love and life still provides. So that understanding was not given to you. You had to just step into responsibility and do tasks, most likely. So you understood that success meaning getting things done and keeping a roof over your head or just keeping your parents from not drinking alcohol or whatever the situation was, which was success in your inner child's mind, came from effort redirection from managing the field, managing your reality at that time. That puts you into hypervigilance and survival mode, and it stunts influence, clarity, ideas. Maybe you still did have ideas come through in your quiet moments, but for the most part, it keeps you on hypervigilance. So your nervous system starts learning to overfunction instead of magnetize. Magnetism is when a woman learns that she doesn't have to use effort to attract things in her life to justify prosperity. If this was your reality, you have learned that you have to work hard, you have to overfunction, and that is what is going to keep the world spinning. This way puts you, you very well might be having the wealth identity of the achiever, or maybe you might not. You just might be overfunctioning. You might even be the inheritor and be overfunctioning. This is not really about having access to wealth. This is about feeling safe. So when you are cut off from your magnetism and you are so stuck in overfunctioning, this keeps you in a box. There's not even a ceiling, it's just a box. And you're not able to magnetize and expand. The fifth wealth block is rarely discussed, and it's an identity shift that wealth requires. And we kind of did discuss it a little bit. But the truth is, when you change anything in your reality that's very meaningful, your identity is going to shift because you're going to raise your vibration. Hopefully, maybe it doesn't mean because you raise your vibration, you get wealth, but to the audience that I'm talking to the community I'm talking to, I'm guessing that this is also important to you. When you change something meaningful, things are going to change in your world. And you're not at mercy of this. It's actually most of the time your decision because you shift how you see things, you shift how you see people. Wealth does something really interesting to you because it actually gives you the permission to just get rid of the things that you've always wanted to get rid of and do the things that you want to do. The more and more you move into that, it does give you that because you're just more yourself, because you're not in that root chakra fear. And this can change expectations and social dynamics. It can change relationships. If the relationships are not going to evolve in accordance to your highest growth as a soul, then they are going to come out of your life. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say you can change and shift and keep your life exactly how it is, and that's not the truth. Okay? If the current patterns in your life are very much tied to an identity that's very contracted and small and not truly you, of course, when you expand and when you grow, that is going to shift. It's going to shift. So you know this. deep down. And this fifth block really does tie in to the first three that we spoke about. So when this happens, you're going to have to change, and your subconscious or your conscious part of you does not want to change. It doesn't want to change because you don't feel enough trust, enough flexibility, enough able to lean back and go through change. Because change was not always easy for you. Now, for me, I've actually developed a really positive relationship with change as a result of so too much change, okay, in my world. So as a result of too much change, I can now actually flow through life because I've had so much change in my life, but I need a really strong base. So my home and my like time by myself and time to recharge is very, very stable. I need that to be stable. I can't have anything changing there. And with that foundation, I'm able to be very flexible and changeable in my career and in my life. So you need something solid for you to be able to change, right? But if nothing is solid, it's going to be very difficult to change. And it also depends on what your relationship with change was like. If you had a very, 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 very stable childhood, change could be difficult for you. If you had a very chaotic childhood, change could be difficult for you, or it could be easy. I don't know. It depends on certain circumstances, but this is a block. A relationship to change can stop you from shifting identities. Now, what are the three stages of feminine wealth expansion? Once you really get to grip with these blocks, um, what is really going on within you, and there are more blocks, but these are the five main ones. Wealth starts becoming much easier because you are always resisting something, you're always pushing away from something. So once these blocks are melted, they're worked through somatically, meaning your body, the tension in your body. Once your nervous system has discharged the tension around these ideas, once your intellectual mind has understood that these things are not the case, once your spiritual ties, your programming to your ancestry have been resolved, once you stop buying into the cultural, social expectations of you, you can now start to step into stage one, which is permission. Now, this is a really amazing point. When you stop waiting for systems or institutions or families or partners to say, yes, you can go and live your dream, right? Once you take that permission into yourself and say, I'm gonna give myself permission to do this, because the only person that can truly give you permission is yourself. But we think someone else is going to give us permission. That is an illusion. The only person that can give you permission to create wealth, expand wealth, or step into your true potential is yourself. And I'm not saying permission to go take action or permission to do like $1 million routine. I'm just saying the permission to say, actually, this is something I want to do. And I no longer buy into or give my energy to these ideas, to these blocks. That's stage one. When you truly give yourself permission. Stage two is when you understand that the way you've positioned yourself is not going to work if you really want to create wealth or leadership. And this goes for everything in life, by the way. It goes for relationships, finding a partner, everything, but we're talking about wealth, okay? The way you've positioned yourself is probably someone who might participate inside systems or have to ask permission, or you've positioned yourself in your head as someone who has nice ideas, but you're not going to create wealth. You know, you have talent, but it's never going to be influence. You need to step into authority. You need to step into authority. I really did this in my life when I became a creative director. Now that sounds to some people like a fluffy title, but for me it meant a lot because I come from a very educated family and I'm like a super creative person and I had to really fight to be creative. And inside, I never took my creations to be that serious. Like I just kind of thought, okay, yeah, I have talent, like because that's how my family truly perceived me. They thought I had talent and it's like a novelty. But when I became creative director, when I used to step into creating visions for businesses to be able to message themselves, I really did stand in my authority at that point because that was probably the first time in my creative vision that I didn't ask permission from anyone else and I completely took creation into my own hands and it was for to generate wealth for other people. So that was a key moment for me. So when you truly step into authority and you don't really need permission, you start entering wealth multiplication. At this stage, the universe, God, you, the mirror, the hologram, whatever you subscribe to, will start bringing you ideas, businesses, investments, networks, influence. And this is where wealth begins multiplying rather than growing slowly and you start meeting other women that have got rid of these ideas and they start coming into your world as well. And even the fact that you're here and you're listening to this is a sign that you are on your way. So what is the three channels that wealth tends to flow through for this women? So for these women, right? And for you. Now you can have, there's different types of wealth. 16 forms of wealth if we're looking at the goddess of wealth, Lakshmi. But ideally, in this time and reality, women are generating wealth through their ideas, their expertise, their strategy, their business, their intellectual property. Many achiever type women, that I mentioned in the beginning, do really well when they cross over to a business that creates wealth through expertise, strategy, business, intellectual property, and ideas because it's not such a different format to what they were doing already. Now, achiever women already have programmed inside of them. Not all programming is bad, by the way. It's like a computer. What programs do you want? What programs do you want to get rid of? If you already have a program that understands that strategy, having a system, expertise creates wealth, can be used in your advantage to now create a business around that. Now, that doesn't mean you have to create a very corporate business. You can even create I don't know, the most like painting, like an art business. You can still create something really out of the box. It's just the system. If you set it up the way you create it, if you do it with a system and a strategy, it's really going to help you. Relational wealth. Now, there's women that are really good at relationships, right? They're really good at networks. They're really good at influence. They're really good at partnerships, introductions, alliances, reputation. Historically, this has been one of the most powerful forms of feminine wealth. This whole event is about relational wealth, how I've got all the speakers to speak, and we've all done partnerships, and it's through introductions and alliances and reputation. Like, this is a relational wealth event that you're watching right now. And relational wealth is something I think is the center of like powerful feminine wealth because historically women were the ones that moved through circles and they made connections, even if they could not create wealth themselves. So this is something that I also want to present to you that it's not all about doing it on your own. You can also do this in partnerships. You can also do it with other women. And once you start stepping into permission and authority, and the universe will start bringing you other women that have subscribed to this idea, it's going to be very easy for you. Now, authority wealth is when a woman becomes a presence or perspective that creates value. So if you are someone who knows that you have a really unique viewpoint and you want to stand and present ideas and you want to just teach or you want to be in front of people. This is about stepping into your authority because now you are magnetizing, right? You're magnetizing investors, you're magnetizing opportunities. People start organizing around your vision. And most women can focus on intellectual wealth or they focus on relational wealth, but you also need to focus on authority wealth. Women who multiply wealth activate all three channels simultaneously. They have intellectual wealth, they've built a system. If you really want to have a feminine business, this is the key. A feminine business, soft life, passive income, whatever, on your own. You need to create a system. Meaning, you have to create a route, like a box, not box is a negative connotation, like a frame, a structure that you can flow inside of. You don't need the masculine to do this for you. The business I have created is absolutely myself. There is a misconception that we need a masculine to hold the structure. That is a choice, but you don't have to. You have to just create a system. Now, my system is I work 3 hours a day, Monday to Thursday. I have a really great team. I know what I'm doing each day, and I have a vision for each quarter and the year. That sounds highly masculine, but I need that. I need that structure. Then within that, you need relationships. I have relationships with people that I collaborate with. We do 3 events a year. I'm collaborating all the time. I also collaborate with my team. I also collaborate with my clients when we create transformation together. This is all relational. And then I teach, I create transmissions of whatever that needs to come through me. So these three channels, now these things don't burn me out, they don't drain me. If you're into human design, I'm a splenic projector, so I have to be really careful about my energy. The system, the relationships, and the authority is the three channels that my business operates on. And I also have helped other women set up businesses like that, not in a strategy way, in a lifestyle way. So I really want you to do a self-assessment on yourself. I want you to just go through this whole video, and every time something makes you think, I want you to generate a question from that. Are you someone that has an idea? Do you feel excited or destabilized when you give yourself permission to act on that idea? Are you someone who sees yourself as participating inside systems, or someone who you think that a system can organize around your vision? Do people around you feel truly comfortable if you were to expand? Or do you sometimes feel that you need to soften your ambition around them? Because your answers are going to reveal a lot about where you are and where you're going. And many women, they reach a moment. They reach a moment where they have to make a decision about if they're going to stay where they are or if they're going to truly act on the idea, the vision, the body of work. Now, before we end this, I do want you to take some time after to truly think about these things. And if you are a woman who is ready to step into what you're here to create and allow wealth to flow through you and just have that experience because it's a really great experience to have in a feminine way. I'm not talking about burning yourself out or having more things to do. It's just a really great earth experience to have. If you are truly ready for that, then I do work privately with women who focus on this exact transition that we've been discussing today. Women who are capable, intelligent, emotionally intelligent. They don't want more effort. They don't want more things to do. They want to really find the deeper pattern and resolve that deeper pattern, towards wealth, power, identity, the ceiling. And it's not just resolving it for them, they also want to resolve it for the future women in their families, as legacy for their daughters. And they want to feel how it feels when wealth moves through them, when opportunities arrive. So many women in our lineage have done really well if they've had the opportunity, but they've also imagined a life where they have seen a man and they could experience what that has done. Have the experience of creating something and having that wealth and giving yourself permission to move through the world in that way, to use your intuition, to use your instincts, all of that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in really exploring and resolving these wealth patterns so you can truly step into your next wealth identity and experience wealth expansion, then there is a option to book a call with me where we discuss working together one to one. And most women who book this call already feel that something is expanding. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm sure it has because it's come from a lot of research that I've done with women, probably just like you. And yeah, happy reflecting. And I will see you very soon.